I've had the privilege and the honor of perusing the erudite and illuminating opinions authored by Honorable Chief Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud and Honorable Justice Surikant. Considering that the present matter involved fundamental questions concerning interpretation of the constitutional provisions and the judgments rendered by this court, I find it necessary to render the present opinion. I would like to make it very clear that my judgment is neither assenting nor dissenting judgment. It's my personal opinion based upon the law, the judgment cited, and the arguments and the facts on the subject. I'll straight away come to the conclusion part. In light of the above, the following conclusions can be recorded. The bench of two judges in writ petition number 54-51 of 1981, titled Anjuman-e-Rahmania and others versus District Inspector of School and others, could not have referred the matter to a bench of 7 judges directly without the Honorable Chief Justice of India being a part of the bench. The establishment of an institution by the minority is necessary for the said minority to claim right of administration under Article 30. The words establish and administer are used conjunctively in Article 30 of the Constitution. The term establish in Article 30 means to bring into existence or to create and cannot be conflated with the generic phrase such as genesis of the institution or the founding moment of the institution. The real positive indicia for determining the question of establishment of an institution would have to be developed on a case-to-case basis on the following broad parameters in mind. One, firstly, to claim establishment, the minority community must actually and tangibly bring the entirety of the institution into existence. The role played by the minority community must be predominant, in fact, almost complete to the point of exclusion of all other forces. The indicia, which may be illustrative and exhaustive in this regard, may be the nature of the institution, the legal/statutory basis required for establishing the institution, whether the establishment required any negotiations with outside forces, the role in acquiring lands, obtaining funds, constructing buildings, and other related matters must have been held completely by the minority community. Similarly, while teachers, curriculum, medium of instructions, etc., can be on secular lines, however, the decision-making authority regarding hiring teachers, curriculum, decisions, medium of instruction, admission criteria, and similar matters must be the minority community. The choice of having secular education in the institution must be made expressly by the minority community, demonstrating the link between institution and the persons claiming to establish it. Secondly, the purpose of the institution must have been to predominantly serve the interests of the minority community or the sole betterment of the minority community, irrespective of the form of education provided and the mode of admission adopted. Therefore, as per the choice of the minority community, an institution may have secular education, but such secular education and the resultant institution must be predominantly meant for the overall betterment of the minority community. Thirdly, the institution must be predominantly administered as a minority institution with the actual functional, executive, and policy administration vested with the minority. The minority community should determine the selection, removal criteria, and the procedures for hiring teachers, teaching administrative staff, and the personnel. The authority to hire and fire staff must be from the minority community. Further, even if teaching or administrative staff may include non-minority persons, the final authority exercising functional, directional, and policy control over these authorities must be from the minority community. This ensures that the thoughts, beliefs, and ideas of the minority community regarding administration are implemented in reality. This represents the real decision-making authority of the institution being of the minority community. In ascertaining the above, it would be open for the court to look at the true purpose behind each of the above factors and to pierce the veil. Aziz Basha categorically prohibits minority from establishing universities due to statutory requirement is unfounded. The bench in Aziz Basha and the present bench are faced with a unique situation and needs to adopt a suitably modulated approach. The judgment in Aziz Basha does not preclude minorities from establishing universities, but rather highlights the importance of legislative intent and the statutory provisions in determining an institution's character. Fifth, the minority community may conceptualize the idea of an institution and may advocate for the same. However, if during the exchange of negotiation, the actual institution which was established had primacy of governmental efforts and control, then such institution cannot be held to be predominantly established by the efforts and actions of the minority community. In the independence and pre-UGC era, in the absence of a provision like Section 23 of the UGC Act 1956, it was open for any institutions to adopt the titles such as university or in some cases Vidyapeeth or Jamia, asserting their capability to grant degrees. The absence of a legislative embargo from private establishment of universities prior to 1956 would be critical for the scope of inquiry. The use of the phrase establish and incorporate by the legislature may be relevant in larger inquiry, but cannot be said to be conclusively determinative of the factor of establishment or not by the minority community. If the intention of the legislature is to establish or incorporate or recognize a minority university, the legislatures have incorporated suitable provisions to color the university with a minority identity. There were no rights, fundamental or otherwise, prior to the Constitution coming into force, and therefore there's no question of surrendering any right. The British Indian government was a supreme imperial power in the country, and the question of surrender is illusionary and does not arise in the present case. The coming into force of the Constitution and the fundamental rights after 1950 cannot alter the events that occurred during the decade of 1910-1920, which led to the establishment of AMU. There's no legal requirement for the AMU code to be manned by the people from minority community ever since 1951. And therefore, merely because de facto the persons from the minority community may have manned the post in the institution would not be relevant to adjudicate the question. The assertion that neutral institutions or non-minority institutions would, in the natural course of things of majoritarian, or that Article 30 contemplates constitutionally protecting certain educational spaces from such majoritarianism by default tendencies is wholly erroneous. The purpose of Article 30 is not to create minority-only ghettos, rather provide positive rights to the minorities to establish educational institutions of their choice and kind. Article 30, as a feature of the Constitution, provides important rights which function within the larger penumbra of fundamental rights. There is substantial interplay, intermixing, and balancing of rights interse with the fundamental rights, and Article 30 is not absolute and certainly do not exist in silo. The crux of Article 30 within bracket 1 lies in its mandate to ensure parity between non-minority institutions and minority institutions. Its fundamental aim is to prevent any form of discrimination or preferential treatment to non-minority communities, thereby advocating for equal treatment under the law for one and all. The provision underscores that no specific category or type of institution should be disadvantaged or unduly favored over another within the legal framework. To assume that minorities of the country require some safe haven for attaining education and knowledge is wholly incorrect. The minorities of the country have not just joined the mainstream, but comprise an important facet of the mainstream itself. The institutions of national character of the country always serve the interests of the minorities and are diverse centers of learning. The UGC Act or the judgment in Yashpal is in no manner comes to the aid of the parties challenging the correctness of judgment in Aziz Basha. The amendment in NC-EMI Act does not come to the aid of the parties questioning the correctness of the decision in Aziz Basha. The reference is answered in above terms. The matter be placed before an appropriate bench as per the prevailing rules.